If you've been watching my channel for a while, you probably know that I typically, go against the grain on a lot of things. So why would the shotgun be any different, right? So I am not really one that believes in the whole buckshot is the best thing for home defense. At least not universally. I think that if you're going to go with any kind of buckshot, I would do triple-aught buck. But when you're using something like the shotgun with a potential of 70 millimeters going down the bore, I don't think I want to downgrade it to a bunch of smaller projectiles that actually have a reputation for under-penetrating unless you're going to really, get some shoulder bruising rounds. And that's just not really something I would rather do. I'd rather have a solid projectile. Therefore, I am into slugs. So the thing I want to talk about first is ballistic performance. Now, there's plenty of cases throughout history where, I'll just take one of my ears out, but there's plenty of cases in history where buckshot did not actually work, and I mean actually work. We're not talking about psychological stuff where somebody takes a hit and, ooh, I don't think I want to fight anymore. We're talking about somebody that's actually determined. There's plenty of people who've been shot several times with buckshot. It's failed to penetrate into the vital organs because it gets stopped by a rib or it deflects off the intended trajectory, so it may have been an off hit or whatever, or a direct hit, and then the BBs either didn't stay on course or whatever, or got caught in ribs. That's happened. Now with slugs, the other side of that is slugs can have the same issue where if they're traveling too fast, they can actually expand, because almost all slugs actually have a hollow point, and they'll stop and they'll spread out because it's a hollow base, kind of like the old Minet ball from the Civil War. So you're basically taking the 70 millimeter projectile and launching it, and it's going to expand. And a lot of people are like, well, it'll liquefy them. Not going to liquefy them, but it does create a big hole. But if that hole doesn't reach deep enough to actually do anything, to hit something that's vital, it's just a hole, and it's not going to actually cause somebody to stop without, them psychologically wanting to. So basically, against their own wishes. So that's why we aim for the CNS. So I'm picky about the type of ammunition that I get for the most part, but I want to go ahead and do a quick demonstration on the difference between, at least in my house, I have a distance that is the most likely I'll have to engage from, that's about 15 meters inside my house. So I'm going to go ahead and lay out, I'm going to do like one shot of buckshot and one shot of a slug, and show you the difference in the pattern and why I'm pretty much not really into buckshot. Now, here's the thing. I know there's all these different newfangled loads out there, but I'm going to be using Star Rio low recoil for both the buckshot and the slug. For the slug, the reason why I do low recoil is because it limits its ability to expand, and therefore allows it to penetrate deeper. So we increase the surface area, we decrease the penetration. So with all that said, the buckshot, yeah, it's going to be lower recoil, and that can typically affect penetration, but if you have something that's like copper plated, low recoil typically isn't going to affect copper plated buckshot or copper plated slugs all that much, because being that it's lead, it can deform if it hits something like bone, and it can deviate it off its intended trajectory. It's just a round ball. So anyways, I'm going to go ahead and show the pattern here. I would end up using something like this if I was going to go with double-aught buck. Triple-aught buck, I'd be using something else, and that'll be a separate video. So anyways, I'm going to go ahead and load up a round of buck, this Rio, and as you can see here, so I'm just going to go ahead and load this up and take a shot from about this range. So, okay, so I'm going to go ahead and go down range, and we'll go ahead and see if there's 8 BBs on target. Okay, so welcome to my little, dump area here. So this is where I shoot all the high-powered stuff that I don't want to shoot rifles, or don't want to shoot at steel. So I do have 8 hits on target. However, at 15 yards, that's about barely going to cover me, and I was aiming for this black target. I actually put the dot from my sights on the 870 Tactical. I put the dot on the basically trying to cover this little crappy circle. The spray paint is like the cheapest stuff I could find, and it just ran. So anyways, that's Buckshot, and I did get the wad here, but you know, this is why cardboard's good for patterning, is it holds together a lot better. It doesn't tear very easily unless you're hitting it with like the wad. But even at 15 yards, this wad actually stayed pretty tight, so not too bad. But you know, you're looking at about this much on the pattern, and yeah, if I lowered that and just had the tip of it, it would probably have been a little more center line, but this was a little over what I thought it would be. So that's a long range shot, and around this range, I'm probably losing a little bit more velocity and therefore more penetration, and it's only like 32 caliber BBs, or 33 maybe. But this stuff, it's not exactly the size that I would want it to be. I would want to put bigger holes in, you know, something. So anyways, I'm going to go back and we're going to go ahead and shoot a slug. Okay, so that performance wasn't really that great, so now we're going to go ahead and move on to a slug. So go ahead and get this thing loaded up and see how this does. And I'm going to use the same target, and I'm going to aim for the black again, and this time I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to cover the black with the front dot. Okay, so I can see it already. It went above that, so just as an experiment, went about this much above the black dot itself. So just as an experiment, I'll go ahead and put it below it, kind of use the tip. Ah. And I did it again. I just covered it. There we go. So that was a more favorable result. I just put it a little bit below it, and it's hitting about this high, you know, over the front sight. So anyways, I'm gonna go ahead and shoot the rest of these. Why not? These are low recoil. It's got about the same recoil, if not a little bit more recoil than the Buckshot, but I'm just gonna shoot the rest of these in the same area. Okay. There we go. Go ahead and check it out. So here's the results from the shooting the slugs. As you can see here, got 2 in the black, and then I got 3. Nice little group right here. It was very consistent, aiming basically right here. And yeah, it was a little bit off. That's just me, but yeah, it shoots a little bit high with these slugs at 15 yards, and that deviation is a lot more tolerable than this kind of deviation with Buckshot at that distance. I can have my precision, you know, basically anytime I need it, and that's one thing I like about slugs. And if they're good slugs where, you know, the low recoil, low velocity, and they don't expand dramatically, then I'm still getting the 70 caliber hole that will basically be able to cause a lot of damage. It'll cause about this much damage in the target, maybe a little bit more if it expands. But whatever this touches, that's what it's going to destroy. It's not like it's going to have hydrostatic shock. It's not reaching a velocity that's going to cause a lot of hydrostatic shock. Nothing that can actually tear human muscle tissue. So you're going to need to reach above like 2,300 feet per second in order to do that. So with all that said, let's go ahead and get back to the table. Okay, so with the slugs being, you know, accurate, I guess you could say, or more precise than Buckshot at these distances, can you get Buckshot that's more in a tight pattern? Yeah, of course you can. Federal flight, you know, flight control wad. Now, the thing is that Buckshot, as I said before, the ballistic differences between the two, that's what drives me more towards slugs, and I like to have that precision, so whatever range I can still take a tight shot. So I don't like being limited by the range on that ability to deliver good shots. Now some people are like, well, slugs always over penetrate. Well, they are heavy penetrators and they can go through barriers pretty easily. And here's the thing, if I'm in my house and I'm actually engaging somebody or being engaged by somebody, I'm not afraid to shoot through my own walls or my own furniture. Buckshot might not take to that all that well, especially if you hit a beam. Now, I'm not afraid to hit my own beams and have to pay a little bit to get it repaired, as long as I end up winning, right? So that's the thing with me, is I like to use slugs because they will go where I want them to go. They'll go through what I need them to go through. And here's the thing. The other thing is, it's not just human beings around here, it's also animals too. We get bears, we get moose, we get coyotes, we get all this other stuff out here. And of course we get the human animals. So you got all types of threats out here, and it's a very versatile round for me anyway, so I'm kind of going against the grain here for a reason. But yes, it can cost a good amount if you're going with something a little fancy schmancy. Like, I'm not saying get like bear rounds or anything like that, something that doesn't expand at all. I'm saying get something that kind of controls its expansion, like the Federal Hydroshock uh, uh, slugs. Those ones actually work really well. The low recoil ones penetrate really well. And they don't expand all that much, but they do expand, so you're getting a bigger surface area covered without it being too dramatic of it breaking apart and under penetrating. So that's my thing for slugs for home defense. You have to be accountable for your shots. You can't just expect to point in a certain direction and go bangy. Buckshot doesn't always work. History's kind of shown that that it doesn't always work unless it's mostly like a psychological stuff. There's plenty of people that have taken a lot of rounds from buckshot and it hasn't stopped them from being a threat. There's plenty of people hit by slugs, like traditional Foster slugs that are cooking along, and they expand so soon that it doesn't even do anything to them. So getting the right slug and making sure that it's something you can tolerate, it's a big thing, and afford. So typically buckshot and slugs are going to cost relatively the same, and why not turn your shotgun into a big freaking rifle? Alright, thanks a lot for watching. Go ahead and leave your comments below, and you guys have a good one.